Crewton Ramone's houseofmath.com with more on the quadratic equation. Here it is all derived, and I have 3 videos on how to derive this. But basically, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And you'll see I have made an error right there. That is a 2, and that should be a 0. But this is because I was, I don't know, temporarily insane. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All that says is we're solving for x when we know how many x squared we have, how many x we have, and how many units we have. And that's it. So once I know those things, then I can figure out what x is if I know this much. And because of the rectangle, it makes it easy to figure it out. And go back and watch those videos. And also look at the pages on completing the square. And then you should probably want to take a little time watching about square roots. But start off with easy ones with your students so they get a feel for it. Right? Don't start off with crazy ones that don't work out. Just start off with super easy ones so they can check their own work and make sure that they understand what's going on. So here's x squared, 3x, and 2. Here are the factors, x plus 1 and x plus 2. Any little kid could see a little drawing of that. I could probably put a little drawing there for you to see. But anyhow, it's the one we always start off with. And the answers, of course, are negative 1 and negative 2. Because if we make one of these zeros, right, if we make one side of the rectangle 0, the whole thing's 0. So, there it is. The answers are actually negative 1 and negative 2. Why? Because negative 2 plus 2 is 0, and negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Now let's check that out with the quadratic equation. So what's b? Well, b is 3. That's how many x I have. So negative 3 plus or minus b squared, so 3 squared, minus 4 ac, well, a is 1 and c is 2, all over 2a. 2 times 1. Now we just do the math. That's it. It's 3 plus or minus 9 minus 8 over 2. Right, we're just doing the math in here. 3 squared is 9. 4, right? Because kids get so freaked out about, okay, well, no, it's just really simple math. Okay, and that's how beautiful and powerful algebra is. Alright, so then I have just negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 1. Square root of 1 is 1. So negative 3 plus or minus 1. Well, then that's negative 3 plus 1 and negative 3 minus 1. So let's do negative 3 minus 1 first, since they're both the same and it's easy to count. 4 over 2. And negative 3 plus 1 is what? Just 2. Simple. Divided by 2. Divide by 2, because I have to divide everything by 2, right? Gives me my answers, negative 2 and negative 1. Well, look at that. Alright, same as this. I just put them in a different order, just to be, saucy. So, here's another one. 2x squared, 5x, and 3. Again, easy one to start off so you get a feel for the quadratic so that you don't get crazy numbers and you're not sure if it's correct or not because it's some crazy square root and, oh my goodness, what teachers do blows my mind sometimes. Just start off easy so they can see this. Little kids can do this, right, once they get in it. Once they understand what this quadratic is about and so forth. I mean, young kids, 10, 9, 8, 7, so on. I don't know about 4 and 5, but for sure 7 and 8, not a problem. Okay, because all we're doing is putting in these guys, right? Substituting, and they've done it before, right? We'll have played, and they'll substitute numbers in for x here. So now substituting it in for the formula is not a problem. As a bonus, they understand the formula and where it came from, instead of just memorizing, right? So here we have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. I got the 0 right that time instead of putting some strange number there. So now a is just 2, b is 5, and c is 3. And again, they're all positive, super easy to work with, right? Don't have to worry about signs too much, right? Because they're already going to have to start worrying about signs with things in here. So if I just factor it, because it's easily factorable, I get 2x plus 3 and x plus 1. Right? And like I said, we could draw a little picture of it, but we've done enough where the picture should be easily called to mind. If you draw a sketch of it, you can look and see on other pages in the blog and so forth. I'm sure the problem is covered. Because it's a very basic problem. 2x squared, 5x, and 3. So, 3 over 2 and negative 1, right? We just set these both equal to 0. Why? Again, because 0 times anything is 0. So if I get one of them to be 0, then the whole thing's 0. So, this is negative 3 over 2, and this, of course, is negative 1. Simple, right? And if you just look at that, what do I have to add to 3 to get 0? Opposite of 2 times 3, or 2 times 1.5, right? Okay, excuse me. So now, I pop everything into my quadratic equation, and I have negative b, there's my 5, the opposite of it, plus or minus 5 squared, minus 4ac, right? And 4 times 2 times, right, because a is 2, and b is excuse me, and c is 3. That might look like 5, but actually it's a 3. 2 times 2, 4, right? Because why is that 2? Because 2a, right? Because I know that's 2. Okay, so now negative 5 plus or minus 25 minus 24. That's super easy again, over 4. So I get 6 over 4 and negative 4 over 4. Should be easy for you to follow along now, right? Skipped a couple of steps here because this is just negative 1, or excuse me, this is just 1, not even negative 1. And I'd have an imaginary number, geez. But it's just 1, square root of 1 is 1. So I have 5 plus 1, or excuse me, negative 5 plus 1, or negative 5 minus 1. Negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. And it's all both of them need to be divided by 4. There you go. Oh, look, the answers are the same. Self-checking, right? Okay. See, 5 minutes, covered a couple problems, no problem. Alright, now let's get a little more tricky and a little bit more where they don't work out and where you got square roots in there and see where it comes from. So here we did it 2 ways. This over here is solved by completing the square. This over here is just our faithful friend quadratic. Okay, you know, when all else fails, go to the quadratic, right? But if you can solve it other ways, sometimes it's easier. So here I have any little kid will look at that and go x squared and 6x. There is no way to arrange 6x around the x squared so that 2 will fit in there. So we're going to complete the square. What I do, I throw it over here. Right? Get rid of that and complete the square. What completes the square when it's 6x? Any little kid can tell you it's 9. Look at the page on completing the square. If you don't believe me, any little kid can do that. Okay, so I have negative 2 plus 9. I had to add 9 here, so I had 9 here. Okay, and I love there's another way of doing it where what completes the square is 9, but it's not 9, so it's 2, so I just add 7, and then I add 7 here, and that skips this step. That's a sweet way of doing it, but for those of you that aren't that advanced, right, just add 9 to that side, add 9 to that side, and get rid of whatever is over there, right? Okay, and I've talked about why it is that this is negative 2 here and so forth, right? Okay, so now I made a beautiful perfect square, x plus 3 squared, same thing as 7. Well, that's going to be difficult because I don't know how to make 7 unless I get my calculator out. I don't know what the number is, so we're just going to leave it that way. So I square root x plus 3 squared to get x plus 3. I square root negative 7. I get plus or minus 7. Excuse me, not negative 7, just 7. And I wind up with, just by solving, x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 7. All right, well, how do I get it over here? Well, I just pop in my numbers, and I didn't even, we're advanced now, right? We've done a few, so we know negative b, negative 6, right? Plus or minus b squared, that's 36, right? 6 squared, minus 4ac, 1 times 2, so that's 8, right? So then that means 36 minus 8, which gives me 28, all over 2, right? And I didn't even write it out, 2a, because I know it's 1, right? Like I said, we're getting more advanced. We can skip some steps here, right? So now x equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 28 over 2. Alright, well now I have to take and watch my video on square roots, right? Square numbers. Click that tab. You'll see how it all fits together and why you need it all at once, right? The algebra is just speaking math, right? The algebra, calculus, you speak the language of mathematics because you put it all together at once to do the problems and to solve for x. So anyway, here's negative 6 plus or minus 2 square roots of 7. How did I get 2 square roots of 7? Well, because if I arrange this and I see this square in my if this was a 4 square and each square was 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, that was 28. Now one side of that is 2 square roots of 7. If you learned a different way, great, right? 4 times 7 is 28, and then you take this out, blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, just as long as you understand that the square root of 28 is the same thing as 2 square roots of 7. Now everybody has to be divided by 2, so that becomes 1, right? So I don't even put it there. This is a 1. It's understood. And negative 6 divided by 2 is 3. Oh, look, our answers are the same, right? Negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 7. All right, one more. Now we're going to get negative, right? Just one more. That's it, okay? So it's not going to take me 15 minutes to do this video. Oh, look at this one. I have another one that's solved by completing the square. X squared minus 2x minus 2 equals 0. Oh, dear. All right, so x squared plus 2x plus 1 completes the square. 1 completes the square, right? I got rid of this, right? Because over here I have 2 minus 2, so take them away. I'm going to wind up with, you know, when I take the stuff the same, with a problem solving video for that, I'm going to wind up with 2, right? Or, as some kids like to do, they add 2 here and add 2 here. Either way, we get 2 there. So then I complete the square with 1, so I add 1 there, and now I have 3 there. I completed the square, so I can make a perfect square in the first place. X minus 1 squared is a perfect square, which gives me this, right? Now I can square root that. There it is. All right. Square root this. I don't know what the square root of 3 is. I'm just going to leave it like that. So now I have x minus 1 plus or minus the square root of 3. Oops, sorry. I have x minus 1 equals the square root of 3 plus or minus the square root of 3. Okay, so x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 3. Wow, how are we going to get that out of this? Well, watch. It's pretty simple. So I take the opposite of 2, which is 2. Excuse me, I take opposite of negative 2. Okay, let's get the verbiage to match the symbols. Right? The reason why that's 2 is because it's negative b, and negative b is the opposite of 2. So there's 2. Right? Like I said, now, after we've gotten familiar with it and played with it a little bit, now we can start throwing negatives in there. Right? Mind the signs, as many of the teachers used to say, because the opposite sign will make things difficult for you if you forget. Anyways, but it's negative 2 is b, right? But when I square it, doesn't matter, it's going to come out to 4. Yay! Minus 4, and I put it all in there so you can get 4 times 1 times negative 2, right? That's my a, b, and c. Or excuse me, over here it's my a and c, 1 and negative 2. Okay, and 2a, of course, is just 2. So I have this. I have 4 minus negative 8. That's supposed to be a bracket there, sloppy symbols. Okay, so 4 minus 8, right? So when I put that together, that's the same thing as adding an 8, right? So now I have 2 plus or minus the square root of 12 over 2. And again, you need to be able to take the square root of 12 and see that that's the same thing as 2 square roots of 3. If you can't, or if you don't, hit the square numbers tab and look at the videos over there. Okay, because it explains how it is that we're going to get to turning that into 2 square roots of 3. Okay, so now I just take everything and divide by 2, right? So that's 1. That's 2 over 2 is 1. You can see it very clearly there. And I wind up with 1 plus or minus the square root of 3, or the plus or minus the square root, or 1 square root of 3 is what I was going to say there. We don't need to write the 1 because it's understood, right? All right, Crewton Ramone's houseofmath.com for more, but there it is, using the quadratic equation, right? It's great to derive it, but you got to be able to use it also. Just mind your symbols and your signs, and you'll be fine. And start off small and easy like this, right? Notice how, look, these are all little numbers, right? Later on we can get to 13 and 19 and, you know, all kinds of crazy numbers here where we got to do greater math. But to start off, let's just keep it short, simple, easy, so that the students don't get confused, right? All right, Crewton Ramone's houseofmath.com for more.